Today we're going to be talking about camping etiquette. Those are the written rules and the unwritten rules of camping. Now there's different rules for the different types of parks you go to, whether it's an RV park or a private park or a provincial park. And we do mostly provincial parks, and this is going to be more set up for camping in provincial parks. Now the written rules, oftentimes when you arrive at a park, you can get a park pamphlet or an information guide like this one. This is the Murphy Point Guide from 2021. And when you go into the guide, there's usually a list of park regulations and rules with minimum fines there. So
I was going to say, unfortunately, not all parks have these anymore. They
due to budget cuts
have just a map, but
yeah,
it is online.
Yep, on the website, if you go on to the Ontario Parks website, you can see the list of rules and offenses, and that is a condensed rule list. There are a lot of rules. So we're going to be talking about both. Now, Ontario Parks says it best. They say, have respect for your fellow visitors and for the park environment.
That's right.
That's the one basic rule. If you can follow that, you're doing great. But of course, they do break it down into much smaller rules. But that's the main thing.
Okay, we're not preaching from a higher ground at all. We've all been there. We start at the bottom, work our way up, and that's how we learn. We learn by our mistakes. So we thought we'd go over a few of the etiquette rules with you.
And we have broken some of these rules in the past. Everybody has. And it's usually because we just didn't know.
Or things have changed over the years as well.
Yes, and things have gotten more environmental over the years, and there's more of a push to
the influx of campers that don't know better.
Where they have to make it, when there's only a few campers, it wasn't that big of a deal, but when you have so many campers, you have to have more rules to protect the environment.
Okay, so let's talk about rules around the campsite.
Okay. I know one big pet peeve for people is...
It's probably one of the biggest ones.
It's cutting through other people's campsites. When you get a campsite, you are renting that space. That space is your residence for while you're there. And you don't want anybody walking through your residence. This is one we hear a lot from people complaining about this. So when you're camping and there's a shortcut to get to the water or to get to the comfort station or whatever, don't go on other people's campsites.
That's right. They might usually have a path somewhere close that you could cut through, but do not go through somebody's campsite. Right.
Now, if the site is a completely unoccupied site, that's completely different. If it's completely unoccupied, nobody is renting that space, then you can cut through that campsite. But if anybody has their equipment on it, they're on it, whether they're there or not, that is their residence. Don't cut through their campsite.
The next one we have is no showering or bathing on your site. We did this not that long ago, a few years back. We would have the little pop-up shelter and the solar shower bag hanging in the tree.
Yeah, especially during COVID when there was way more people camping.
And they closed the comfort stations.
Right, and they had no showers operating. The Ontario Parks really put a push on for this. No showering on your campsite. They don't want the soap going into the ground. It is not environmentally safe. And it also is an attractant for animals such as bears, raccoons, skunks, porcupines, things like that.
Right. You may ask, well, what do we do?
There's a few things that we do, and it's all you.
Actually, last year, it was in one of our videos. I had those black buckets with the snap lids on, and I washed my hair. I had a clean bucket and a dirty bucket, and I just washed my hair in the bucket, and then we just dumped it down a vault toilet.
Yeah, you put a green stripe on the clean bucket and a red stripe on the dirty bucket.
Yeah, and just used water.
Right, and everything that ran off you went into the dirty water bucket.
Yeah. Another thing you could do is get a basin and just do a sponge bath, what a lot of people do, and same thing, you dump it in a bucket and dump it down the vault or at the dump station. I got a couple of options you can use. One of these loofah type sponges and jump in the lake and just no soap needed. That does a good job.
Yeah, jumping into the lake is going to help you clean off. It's going to take the sweat off you. If you've got bug spray and stuff like that, it's going to come off. All you need is a loofah, and you're getting a pretty good cleaning there. Definitely no soap or any other chemicals.
Don't forget, you're camping. You're not at the Hilton.
Right.
You can get body wipes. They're a little bit larger than, say, the baby wipes. I got just a couple different ones. Those work well. And there's also another product called No Rinse body wash. There's a shampoo and a conditioner as well. You do not require any water. You just put it on your body, put it in your hair, make a lather, and use a towel and dry off. It's called like astronaut shampoo, or for people who are bedridden, can't get out of bed, this stuff is great. I think I got this at Pharma Plus.
Okay.
Yeah, but
we'll put links for any of the stuff we're talking about. We'll put the links in the description below.
So there's a few options to use. Along the similar path is washing your dishes. You do not wash them at the water tap. You do not wash them in the comfort station. It makes a big mess at the water tap, and in the comfort station, basically you just go to the bathroom, wash your hands, and get out. You don't want to be taking up time and having dirty food particles from your dishes in the sink.
And think about it. If people are going to go do their dishes there, it's going to take them time to do their dishes. They're going to be taking up a sink or two when those sinks are just for people to wash up after using the facilities. And imagine if a bunch of people decided to go to the comfort station to do their dishes. They'd be using up all the sinks. So usually if there's a sign saying no dishwashing at the comfort station, and then we've seen people...
Same at the water tap.
At the water tap, there is a sign says no washing dishes at the water tap.
And what do we see? People washing dishes at the tap.
The person, sitting down with his legs wrapped around the post that has a sign that says not to do that, and he's washing his dishes.
And all the food particles are landing on the ground.
Again, an animal attractant, and you're getting the soap into the ground, which is not good for the environment.
So what do? You can get the collapsible dish bins or just regular dish bins, one for washing, one for rinsing at your site. Then when you're finished, you just take it and dump it down the vault, or you can dump it in a bucket and take it and dump it down the vault, or the dump station if you're close enough. Just get a snap-on lid. You're good to go.
And definitely don't dump it on your site.
For the same reason, it's just going to be a muddy, wet mess. Food particles are going to attract all
same as the showering.
Critters.
Now this next one is a bit of a no-brainer. But when you're in a trailer, do not dump your black or gray tanks at the site. Now the black tank, I think that's completely obvious, because the black tank
that'd be horrendous.
Is all your liquid waste that comes out of your body. So it's your toilet stuff. So I think most people know not to dump that at the campsite.
That's right.
But don't dump your gray either. Again, same sort of reason as not dumping your dishwasher, not showering. And if a lot of people do that, it can ruin a campsite. It can ruin your park. So don't do that at all. If you need to dump, you can get one of those totes.
The honey wagon.
The honey wagon. And then you take that to the dump station. Also, for your gray, not your black, but for your gray, you could use one of those buckets that we talked about.
A dirty water bucket.
Yeah, you can fill up a couple bucketfuls and take that to the vault toilet or to the dump station if you need to free up some space in there. But do not dump it at your site.
I've noticed a lot more people with honey wagons lately.
Something we're still looking at.
Yeah, I'm more pro. I got to work on him still.
Yeah.
Next, don't scavenge for firewood at your site.
In backcountry camping, you can actually gather wood from around. But in front country camping, it's a big no-no.
Yeah, that's a big no-no. Where were we at Algonquin? Somebody was doing that at their site, and the warden was on them pretty quick.
Yeah.
I don't know if they got a ticket or not. But
yeah, and that was the strangest scavenging, because their site was lined by logs just to show the parameters of their campsite, the boundaries of their campsite, and pulled out a saw and started cutting up those logs to use for their campfire. So good thing the warden was on that pretty quickly.
They have wood usually at the entrance registration that you can purchase, or at the camp store. You can support the locals in the area. There's a lot of places that sell firewood at the side of the road that you could buy.
The firewood does have to come from that area, though. You can't transport firewood from another area. Don't bring it from home and travel 300 kilometers to a park. It's against the rules to bring in outside firewood because you can be bringing in
Emerald ash borer.
well, yeah, other types of bugs and stuff that aren't natural to that area. Place like Killbear, a couple of years ago, they had to cut down so many trees because they were destroyed by the emerald ash borer. And they're not native to that area. They probably came in on people bringing in firewood. So that's why they're very strict in that rule.
What do we do?
We always bring skid wood, which is heat-treated wood from skids or pallets. And that's safe because no animal can be, no bug can be living in that because it was heat-treated.
Yeah. Next, be considerate of noise pollution.
And that's one for me because I have kind of a loud voice.
You do.
So late at night and stuff, I have to talk a little quieter. There's usually quiet hours from 11 p.m. until 7 or 8 a.m. And that means during those times, you shouldn't be having your radio on, stereo, whatever, no loud talking or anything.
You shouldn't be able to hear your music outside of your campsite.
Right.
So it should be at a low decibel.
And that's at all times, even during the daytime. That's your music. You want to hear it. Your neighbor doesn't want to hear your taste in music. If you want to have the music cranked up loud, put in some earbuds and you can listen to your music. But really, the next campsite over shouldn't be hearing anything coming from your site.
Especially when parents have little kids that they're trying to get to sleep. When arriving and setting up at your campsite, it's probably a good idea to use your cell phone or walkie-talkies to communicate between the driver and the backer-inner. So you're not hollering, especially if it's like 11, 12 o'clock at night. All right, Ben, turn to the right, turn to the left.
And we've all heard that.
Yeah.
We've heard them shouting back and forth. And it often gets a little bit heated when it's later at night because they're just trying to get in quickly. And then they're getting upset with each other.
And doors are slamming.
Yeah.
Air pumps are going.
Right. So be considerate of that. Now, along with the noise, in the same vein, is barking dogs.
That can be tricky.
Yeah.
Because we have one of those.
So that's when at your site and you're there, you got to stop the dog from barking. If you're leaving your site and you know your dog's going to be in the trailer barking because they're missing you, then either don't bring the dog or take the dog with you when you're going places because it's awful just listening to a dog in distress barking away all day long.
We've had that when we were staying at
Canis Bay.
Canis Bay. The dog was left alone all day barking, and it was a warm day too.
Yeah, we ended up calling a warden to come to check on the dog because it was definitely in some sort of distress. And also, if you have a generator. Some parks have specific generator hours, but usually if we use a generator, we're usually only using it in the middle of the day. The middle of the day is when most people are off hiking.
10 and 8? 10 and 8?
Yeah, that's a big
hours?
portion, but we'll usually do it at like 2 or 3 in the afternoon or something like that because most people are off hiking or at the beach or doing something like that. They're not at their campsite.
Yeah, we rarely bring our generator. I think it was just to Cypress Lake that we brought it.
And it's an inverter generator, which is the kind you want that gives the clean electricity, and it's a much quieter one than a construction-type generator. Don't bring those construction-type generators. They are super loud. So you want an inverter generator.
The next one is keep animal attractants out of sight and locked away, such as barbecues, coolers, garbage bags.
And food.
Yeah, food, which is in those things. Because the animals know what those things are.
Right.
They know they can get into them. We accidentally actually left a cooler bag out not too long ago on the table and had lettuce in it. Heard something in the middle of the night. I went out and the zipper was undone and my lettuce was all shredded.
Raccoon went in and undid the zipper and got into it.
So they're smart.
So if you're in a tent, don't keep anything in the tent.
No soap, no toothpaste. Like, they can smell everything.
Right. Everything goes in your car.
Locked away.
What we do, the cooler, we keep it in the back seat of our truck. Garbage, we might have that hanging up during the day when we're there. At nighttime, we go and put it in the box of the truck. where it's secure.
Barbecue,
we put it away in the crawl space at the front of the trailer. So there's no animal attractants out in the open, and there's nothing in an easily accessible spot like for a bear to get into, like a tent or something like that.
Pretend you're pretend you're a hungry bear and look around your site. If there's something that looks appealing, put it away.
And the bears know what coolers are. So even if there's no smell of it, if it's just a drink cooler, all cans, so there's no smell, they're still going to go in that cooler and look because they know coolers usually contain food.
They want a beer too.
Mm-hmm.
Keep your dog on a leash unless in a designated leash-free area.
Yeah, your dog can scare other people walking by, other dogs, and wild animals. And especially wild animals. If your dog gets loose and there's something around the campsite, such as a skunk, you're going to know it awfully fast. Even worse, a porcupine. Porcupine swats your dog in the face. That's going to be an expensive trip to the vet.
And when does that happen? Late at night when the vets are closed and you're far away from town.
And a lot of pain for your animal.
Yeah.
And then bears or moose. You don't want them confronting those animals. So you need to keep your dog on a leash.
Going back to the skunk, might be a good idea to have a little skunk kit for your dog. You know, the skunk off shampoo.
Yeah, our dog has been sprayed several times, at home always. So we actually purchased Skunk Off, which is a brand name product, and we've used that, and then you've got a little kit.
Yeah, with like hydrogen peroxide and Dawn dish soap, and it's got a mixture of things, but it's good. You don't want to be left without that and your dog in the camper smelling like a skunk.
Yeah, you don't want the dog in your trailer because everything will stink and it'll stink for weeks.
Yeah. Don't distract people when they are hooking or unhooking at a campsite.
Right. Everybody has their process that they do. Let them do their process. If you distract them, they could do a mistake that might cause something to be unsafe, or it could cause something to break or whatever, and could be a very expensive thing. So don't distract them when they're unhooking. Let them do their thing. Once they're settled, then you can go say hi.
One of your favorites, turn your outside lights off at nighttime.
Right. There is no need to illuminate the wilderness around you at night when
most
you're
people go
sleeping.
Most people go to avoid that sort of thing.
Right. And especially if you're camped next to somebody in a tent, they do not want to have your bright light illuminating their tent. And we've seen that before. We had one fifth wheel parked, and he had a great big spotlight on the front of the fifth wheel. I have no idea why you even have that one there. It might be for when hooking up. But they had that on. It was shining across the road right onto a tent. I can't believe the people from that tent wouldn't go and say something. Because
you wouldn't like that.
It was a spotlight right on the tent.
You're light sensitive.
I am. I don't like any light at night, and I don't like when light is shining in our windows at night when we're sleeping. So that's a big one for me. We turn off all our outside lights. There's no reason to have any lights on at night.
Although I do like to see the lights. Like I like all the pretty Christmas lights and that sort of thing, but then they have to go off at bedtime.
Right.
Rules around the campground.
Right. One of them is stay on the marked trails. You do not want to be making new trails, damaging the environment, trampling areas. They make the paths because they want to disrupt the ecology as little as possible. So stick to the trails.
Don't drink booze off campsite. It's just like being at home. Keep it on your property.
Legally, your campsite is your residence, so you're allowed to consume alcohol on your residence, but you're not anywhere else. When you're at home, you don't go walking down the street on the sidewalk having a beer, and you can't do that when camping.
Don't litter. Pick up after your pet. That's just being considerate.
Yeah.
All driving laws apply in the provincial park.
That's right. All the roads in the park are the same as a city street. All the rules apply. That means wearing seat belts. That means obeying the speed limits.
Yes, because especially little kids are running around playing, riding their bikes, they're not paying attention. So you can't be zipping through the camp roads.
Right. And something we see all the time, and that's, you'll see a bunch of kids in the back of a pickup, like in the box of a pickup with their beach toys.
Kids, adults.
And their parents driving them down to the beach. That's a big no-no. They need to be wearing seat belts. Yeah, please don't do that. It's very dangerous. In the same vein with kids, wearing helmets. Under 16...
Riding your bikes, yeah.
Yeah, riding your bikes, wearing helmets. Under 16, you're required by law to wear a helmet. Now, it's a good idea for everybody to wear a helmet, especially in a park, because you're usually riding on rough terrain and there's trees around and things like that. But legally, kids under 16 have to wear a helmet.
Don't use fireworks. It's against the law to use fireworks in a provincial park.
Yeah, we hear that quite often too, especially on Canada Day weekend and May 2-4. The fireworks, they're going to scare the animals. The animals aren't used to hearing stuff like that.
And small kids as well.
Right, and people trying to put their kids to sleep, hearing the booming going on, can scare the kids. And a lot of dogs are afraid of fireworks. I remember our old dog, she'd be terrified when she heard fireworks. So, no fireworks in the park.
Don't fly a drone in the provincial park. You can talk about that.
I have a drone. I've had a couple of drones throughout the years. And prior to 2019, the rules of flying drones were kind of gray. Transport Canada had a lot of guidelines on flying drones. Not real laws, just guidelines. The provincial parks didn't have any specific rules about it, except they relied on the Transport Canada, the one law that they did have, saying that you can't land an aircraft in a provincial park. So Ontario Parks kind of use that as their rule that you can't have drones in the park. But that was even gray. Is a little drone considered an aircraft? Because I'm sure when they drafted that law in the 50s or 60s, they weren't thinking of drones. They were thinking of airplanes and helicopters. So in the past, we did fly drones in the park. And I remember being at Killbear Provincial Park and having a warden standing right next to me as I'm flying the drone, and I'm getting good shots of people jumping on the jumping rocks. And the warden was just interested as to what the drone is and how it works and stuff. Didn't say I couldn't do it. And so I used to do that. But 2019 came, and the government made very specific laws. There are now federal laws and there are provincial laws. And it is against the law to fly a drone in a provincial or a national park. That's federal law. The parks have created their own rules, and they say you can't fly a drone in a park, so that's a provincial law. The only exception is the park superintendent can give somebody permission to fly a drone. Now, that's going to be for very specific reasons, such as if the parks are doing a land survey, or if there's an emergency situation, emergency services need to fly a drone or something like that. They're generally not going to give it to a YouTuber who wants to put out some videos to show how cool the park is. That's not going to happen. They also require a lot of liability insurance. So really, your average YouTuber is not going to be able to fly a drone in a park. So you may see some of our videos where we do have drone footage. That drone footage is usually when we're driving down the road, outside of a park. If there is any footage that you see in a park, it's because I, as the drone pilot, was standing outside of the park. I was not within the park. The drone...
I think we showed that in our Inverhuron video.
Yes.
Yeah.
The drone was launched from and landed outside of the park, and then I flew the drone over the water, so it's not over people or anybody else, and it's always within view. So I was legally flying the drone in that situation. Now, I am a licensed drone pilot, and my drone is registered, but I don't fly them in parks anymore. And I see it all the time. I watch YouTube videos, people flying their drone. It's a pet peeve of mine now, because I know you can get some fantastic footage when you're flying a drone, but it's illegal, so you don't do it anymore. or I don't do it anymore.
Sorry.
Yeah.
At the dump station, be considered if there's a lineup.
That's right. You do a fast one. If there's a long lineup, or any lineup at all, I would forego the black water flush. That takes extra time. You don't need to do that every time you're going through the dump station. And if you have to do some extra cleanup after you're done dumping, pull ahead so that the person behind can get there, and then you can pack away your gear or whatever. Just try to speed along the process.
Yeah, you'd hate to be that person behind, waiting and waiting and waiting.
Right. And make sure that you use the red hose.
Yes, read the signs.
Right. Do not go to the potable water hose, which in provincial parks is a blue tower.
Generally.
Yeah, blue tower. It might have a red hose on it, but the black water tower for cleaning out your hose and stuff, that'll be red. The tower in the for potable water will be blue. Do not use that to clean out your hose or whatever. You do not want to contaminate that hose, because that's the hose that people attach to their trailer to fill up for drinking water.
Potable means clean water, drinkable water.
Right.
Non-potable, dirty water.
Mm-hmm. Now, most of these rules and etiquette tips that we talk about are enforceable by law. And the park wardens in the park, they have the same authority as police. So park wardens can make arrests, they can lay charges, they can do anything that police do in a park. So you need to give them that respect. They are not just security guards. They do everything there, and their main goal is to make things safe for everybody, and to protect the environment. So please listen to them.
And usually, I was going to say, when you first register, the pamphlet that you get usually has the park warden's phone number if you have to get in touch with them. I guess if it's after hours, you'd call the OPP, but just take note of the phone numbers that you get in the flyer. All right, well, I guess that's a wrap for our camping etiquette video. If there's any pet peeves or anything you think we've missed or more important, just put it in the comments below.
Yeah, that'll help everybody else out. And I'm sorry this seemed to be don't, but a lot of these things are rules that don't do it. Yeah. And we tried to give you some tips on how to do things the right way. So we hope this helped. Yeah.
Okay. Happy camping.
Yeah, we'll see you in the next video. Bye. They'll turn and look at us, and then we get caught. Okay. We don't get caught before they look. There we go. That'll work.